here on the other computer. I want this one. Oh, put that back. Put it back. Stay. Let's go with Mythic Spoiler. Okay. Add. Window capture. Card. Okay, let's do this. Just gonna set it up. Select the region. Okay, there we go. Select region. Move it up just a bit. We'll go right there. Just gonna take a quick spin through here. Okay, let's see what we got. Whoa, what are you doing, Paige? Go back. There we go. I'm gonna make this slightly bigger. There we go. I'm gonna hide me, so I'm not super important. Okay, so these pictures have not been obtained by us. They were obtained through other people and have such been posted onto a website that is not our property. These pictures belong to Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro. Just throw that out there. So, the first one, we have the white creature, General Tazri. He's a legendary creature, human ally. And when he enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an allied creature card, reveal it, and put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. So that's pretty interesting. And then you can pay all 5 colors of mana together, and allied creatures you control get +X until end of turn, where X is the number of colors among those creatures.
Alexandra. Alexandra's Wrath the Board.
When you get there, when you get to that.
Nice X.
So Sphinx of this final word. Can't be countered. Flying, hexproof, instant and sorcery spells you control can't be countered by spells or abilities. Control is going to love this card.
Yeah.
Because they're going to play it and then just kill you. Now the next card, the one that's in foreign, we're going to go click on it.
It's still in foreign. Hang on.
It's still in foreign. Hold on. Inverter of Truth. There's the card name.
It's a 6/6 flyer for 4. It's
Yeah.
pretty good.
It's like a Desecration Demon.
But with the weird exile clause.
Yeah, exactly. So when Inverter of Truth enters the battlefield, exile all cards from your library face down, then shuffle all cards from your graveyard into your library. So I did the same thing as this other guy, this Thomas guy did. Read it and thought, hey, this is going to be really good. Control's going to love this. They're just going to play this, shuffle their graveyard into their library, and then they're going to get all their cards back. Sounds like a really good plan. Realized not so much. However, they can play this as like, oh, I've only got like 3 cards left in my library. I'm going to play this Inverter of Truth and exile my library, putting my graveyard as my library. Well, look, I have 40 cards again. Woohoo! If there's a way to flash this guy in, you could just technically never get milled out. Because you just save as the last card in your hand forever and ever and ever. Yeah, so that's exciting. We're going to go back to the other page. And we've got Chandra, Flamecaller. So +1, put 2 3/1 red elemental creature tokens with haste onto the battlefield, then exile them at the beginning of the end step. That's pretty cool. That's a good ability. +1, get 2 3/1s with haste. The 0, discard all cards in your hand, then draw that many cards +1. So if you're a burn deck and you are playing cards and you're just drawing land, you can use Chandra's ability to discard your entire hand and draw a completely new hand plus 1 card. Seems pretty good. And then minus X. Chandra Flamecaller deals X damage to each creature. Seems pretty good. It's a really good way to clear some 1/1s or 0/1s or 2/2s or 3/3s or whatever. And then we have Nissa, Voice of Zendikar. So +1, put a 0/1 green plant creature token onto the battlefield. Her +2, or -2, sorry, put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. This is going to be absurd with Hardened Scales. If you like turn 1 Hardened Scales, turn 2 Oath of Nissa, and then like turn 3 Nissa, just wreck your opponents. Play this with like Hardened Scales and Avatar of the Resolute. The green-white counters deck gets a lot scarier. So we'll scroll down to the next group of cards. So we have Linvala the Preserver. Flying, when enters the battlefield, if your opponent has more life than you gain 5 life. When she enters the battlefield, if an opponent controls more creatures than you, put a 3/3 white angel creature token with flying onto the battlefield. Seems pretty cool. Seems like a lot of fun. It's a 6-mana timely reinforcements that gets you a 5/5 flying angel as well. Seems really good. Then we have Crush of Tentacles. So we have a new ability. First time we've come across this with the spoiled cards. Surge. So you may cast this spell for its surge cost. If you or a teammate has cast another spell this turn, return all non-land permanents to their owner's hands. If Crush of Tentacles surge cost was paid, put an 8/8 blue octopus creature onto the battlefield. So if you like 1 mana spell, followed up by this at 5 mana, you get an 8/8 blue octopus as well. Seems crazy. Then we have Kalitis, Trader of Geet. So it's a 3/4 for 2 black and 2 colorless. Sorry, 2 generic, I should say, not colorless. It has lifelink. If a non-token creature an opponent controls would die, exile it. Instead, exile that card and put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield. So this is going to be really good against the rally decks. If you play it and then they just start to rally their board, you're going to start to get the value from it. If you're playing this against the rally decks and you're playing a rally deck, this is going to be a really good card for you. So keep an eye out for that. I think there's a lot of power behind that to happen. But there's another ability still. So you can pay 2 mana, sacrifice another vampire or a zombie, put 2 1/1 counters on Kalitis, Trader of Geet. And then we have Tyrant of Valakut. So we've got the token dragon in the set that you can pay for 5 with Surge. So when it enters the battlefield, if its Surge cost was paid, it deals 3 damage to a target creature or player. Seems pretty good. It's a 5/4 though. So it trades off with Dragon Lord Ojutai. But really interesting card at 5 mana. We have World Breaker. So an Eldrazi. The first of the Eldrazi that we're going to get, or second Eldrazi we take a look at. Devoid, when you cast World Breaker, exile target artifact, enchantment, or land. It has reach. It is a 5/7, and you can pay 2 generic and a colorless. Sacrifice a land, return World Breaker from your graveyard to your hand. Seems really interesting. We'll come down to the next set of cards. These are the oaths of the different planeswalkers. Except for Drawn as Chosen. Because we don't really have a black planeswalker that's going to be there in the set. Omnisless was kind of a bad guy. So we have 4 oaths and then the Drawn as Chosen creature in there. So we'll start with the Oath of Gideon. 2 white and 2 generic. When Oath of Gideon enters battlefield, put 2 1/1 core allied creature tokens on the battlefield, and then each planeswalker you control enters the battlefield with an additional loyalty counter on it. So this is really interesting with the flip planeswalkers, because if you have a creature and they flip, they come back as a planeswalker and enter the battlefield with an additional loyalty counter on them. Oath of Jace. When Oath of Jace enters the battlefield, draw 3 cards and discard 2 cards. Seems pretty good. Then at the beginning of your upkeep, scry X, where X is the number of planeswalkers you control. Seems like planeswalker deck is going to be a lot of fun. Super Friends is going to happen. When a skip drawn is chosen quickly, we're going to Oath of Chandra. So when Oath of Chandra enters the battlefield, it deals 3 damage to target creature and opponent controls. And then at the beginning of each end step, if a planeswalker entered the battlefield under your control this turn, Oath of Chandra deals 2 damage to each opponent. So this is going to be really good in limited, or two-headed, which is part of what Oath of the Gatewatch is about, is two-headed giant formats. It's going to be really good for that. And then so that'll be interesting. It'll be a lot of fun that way. So when you're opening, if you happen to hit Oath of Chandra and some planeswalker, you might play them together. But yeah, Oath of Chandra definitely has a home in a planeswalker deck because of that last ability. And then we have Oath of Nissa for 1 mana. So when Oath of Nissa enters the battlefield, look at the top 3 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature, land, or a planeswalker card from among them, put it into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Seems really good. And then you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast planeswalker spells. So this means that, ready for this? We can go turn 1 Oath of Nissa, turn 2 Oath of Chandra, turn 3 play 3 mana Nissa from Oath of the Gatewatch, turn 4 play Gideon, turn 5 play Ob Nixilis, turn 6 play Chandra, turn 7 play whatever else, turn 8 play a what's his name? Why can't I remember his name? Ugin. Play an Ugin. Turn 8. We can just curve into planeswalkers, and then oh look, we did 2, 4, 6. That's 3, 4, 5, 8, 10 points of damage by just playing our planeswalkers. Just playing them. And our mana doesn't matter. So Oath of Nissa is going to see play with the planeswalkers. There's going to be a planeswalker deck that happens from this. Now, here's the next set of cards. These ones all got spoiled today or yesterday, I believe. So, we have Eldrazi Displacer at white and 2 generic. The creature, Eldrazi creature, has the void. You can pay 2 generic and a colorless, exile another target creature, then return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. So this is going to be really good with the White Hair Bears deck or the Eldrazi deck in Modern. It's a really good way to make it so that way you flicker your opponent's creatures, and then they can't attack because they come back in tapped, which is really interesting. The next card, super silly, but if you can get it to happen, it's going to be really good. So, this enchantment has hexproof. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may reveal your hand. If you do, you win the game if you own a card named Hedron Alignment in exile, in your hand, in your graveyard, and on the battlefield. So, you have to have Hedron Alignment in 4 spots. 4, which is why this card gets kind of silly. Because if you have something that makes copies, it makes it a little bit easier. So we might see this as like a fun random card get played in Standard, because it just says you win the game if these conditions are met. So that's kind of interesting. We have Flailing Tendrils, 2 black and a colorless, or generic. Sorcery, Devoid. All creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn. If a creature would die this way, exile it instead. So we have Drown in Sorrow basically coming back as a Eldrazi spell. Flailing Tendrils. We have another one. Kozilek's Return. Kozilek's Return deals 2 damage to each creature. Whenever you cast an